All right, what's up, everybody? This is Jason Cole with the Patriots Drive podcast here today to talk about our three realistic defensive targets for the Patriots at pick 21. There's a couple of guys that we have our eyes on, a couple more realistic than others based off of the mock drafts we've seen. But Cole, let's jump right into it. Who is the first guy that you have as a realistic target at 21?
Yeah, we'll start from three and head back to one. But first guy is at a position of need defensively for us, and that's cornerback Trent McDuffie from Washington. He's a guy who's maybe not a perfect scheme fit like we talked about, but he's just a talented player. He plays a little more zone coverage, a little more. He's better in zone coverage than in man. Just didn't get a lot of reps. You can touch on that more, the specific numbers on that. But 5'11", 195 pounds. We played a lot of zone this past year, so maybe the Patriots, if they're looking to change their scheme to more of a zone coverage, which we haven't seen in recent history, but if that's something they're looking to do, then McDuffie might be a guy that they could be interested in. Cornerback is definitely a position of need, especially if J.C. Jackson and the Patriots do not come to terms on an extension. It's going to shoot right to the top of the list, and they're certainly going to have to address that in the first round. So I think McDuffie is an interesting prospect who, like we said, might not be the best scheme fit, but if they're looking to change up their scheme a little bit, he's a guy who's certainly talented and could fit the role.
Yeah, only 60 of his 294 coverage snaps this year at Washington came from man coverage. That's the thing that concerns me. I think that Bill wants to play press man. He has very limited experience with this. He's a great zone dropper. I worry about his scheme fit. He's a little undersized too. He's going to be at 5'11". I'm interested to see his wingspan because I loved Roger McCreary before he measured at the Senior Bowl. So the combine will be a big tell and pro day of Trent McDuffie's true value. He could drop out of the first round, in my opinion, just based off of his wingspan if he comes below 30 inch arms like we saw Roger McCreary. But I think that this guy's fast. He's explosive. His acceleration is best in the class, and he's super good. He's a super good tackler. When he's coming up on the play, he has an 88.7 coverage grade. He never once had a below 80 coverage grade in college football. Played 3 years at the University of Washington. He allowed a 44% completion percentage this year in the Pac-12, and going up against some big time receivers in there. Didn't face Drake London this year, the big name out of the Pac-12, but he had a couple good games, good solid ones. Total coverage grade was 88.7, and that's one of the higher ones. I think it's 14th in the whole college football this year, and I think it's the second only behind Ahmad Gardner in the draft class. So he's a guy that is very exciting. I've seen him mocked a lot. PFF says that he's getting mocked to one of Philly's 3 first-round picks 27% of the times. Either regular fans or experts do mock drafts. So he seems like he might be a little better fit in Philly, but I think that this is a guy that, like you said, if Bill wants to change up some things and go away from what they've been recognized as on defense, this is a guy that you look at.
Yeah, certainly an intriguing prospect if that's something they're looking to do, which doesn't seem likely, but it's something they did last year, and maybe it's something that they felt they had success with and they'd like to replicate in the future. So coming up number 2 for top 3 draft prospects, I'll let you touch on this one first.
Yeah, my favorite linebacker in the class, Devin Lloyd. I love the way Nakobe Dean plays a little bit more, but I think Devin Lloyd's length, his athleticism, speed, size, pretty much everything is what Bill would want to favor over a guy like Nakobe Dean. He's going to measure in at about 6'3", probably 240 pounds, 235. We'll see what he runs, but he has great PFF grades, 88.4 pass rush grade, 82 run defense grade, and an 81 coverage grade. He played great all year in the Pac-12, and Utah kind of started off slow, makes a big run into the Pac-12 championship, almost wins the Rose Bowl. This guy can do it all. He really is, if you want to compare, and I don't think anyone's going to be close to Micah Parsons out here, but when you talk about a do-it-all, solid linebacker that can guard, rush the passer, has the size, has the length, Devin Lloyd's the one in this draft class. And I think that he would be a very good pick at 21 to help that position get younger and more versatile.
Yeah, I mean, speed is certainly something that the Patriots should be looking to address on the defense side of the ball, especially at that linebacker position. Jawan Bentley and Dante Hightower are not the most athletic linebackers in the world. Gerard Mayo even touched on it during his interviews at the Super Bowl, that they want to get faster and more athletic on the defensive and offensive side of the ball. So if that's something they're looking to do and they really mean it, this guy is certainly somebody they should be looking at for a prospect. Like you said, Nakobe Dean's a little bit too small. I still think even a guy like Devin Lloyd maybe on the less physical, less size side of what they end up usually liking for linebackers. And that's what's going to be interesting to see about this is if they take a shot on a guy like this and try to go more athletic and maybe less of a thumping linebacker, somebody who's better in coverage, rushing the passer. He had a good run defense grade like you touched on, but just overall the physicality of a guy like this may not compare to some of the guys like that they enjoy, like Hightower and Bentley. They like their linebackers to just run full speed at a guard or center or tackle and just cause havoc in the run game. And he's certainly a guy who may not be able to do it as well as them, but he has speed and athleticism, sideline to sideline speed. He can do a lot of different things, and he's certainly a chess piece that this defense could use in my mind. It's just going to be interesting to see if Belichick wants to take a swing on a guy like that, because that's something he's typically steered away from in the past. A guy like Kyle Duggar right now, who plays safety for us, it plays linebacker a lot for us. So it's going to be interesting to see if they think that they already have a linebacker who's speedy like that, because Duggar is one of those athletic guys who can play in the run game. He's a smaller, obviously, because he's a safety. So it'll be intriguing to see what the Patriots end up actually doing with this linebacking group, because certainly Hightower, they need to make a decision on him and Juwan Bentley soon. Hightower's a free agent and he's getting older. He didn't have his best year. Obviously, he made some key mistakes in some big games, and I don't think they're going to want to pay him the money he's going to end up wanting, or maybe he'll end up retiring. You never know. So linebacker is certainly a position need, and I think this would fill the hole.
I will say I do feel more comfortable with New England waiting for a second round linebacker. I love
Yeah.
Chad
Chad
Muma.
Muma.
Darian Beavers is a guy that would be later than the second. Um, Troy Anderson's a guy out of Montana State that I thought showed up at the Senior Bowl. Another guy that's kind of I'm watching more film on would be Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin. Physical. I know people are going to be like, "Oh, a white linebacker out of Wisconsin. We need guys that can move in space." This guy really is a perfect scheme fit if you're talking linebacker. So I think that linebacker more than cornerback, I would feel more comfortable dipping into the second or third rounds to pick up one of those guys. And that this will lead into our first target, and I'll let you take in on this. Another cornerback that maybe is more of a scheme fit than McDuffie.
Yeah, Andrew Booth Jr. The guy has great feet, good athleticism, 6 feet tall, 195, a little bit of a bigger corner, I guess you'd say. Not super lengthy height wise and stuff, but 6 feet's not bad. Having a guy like him next to J.C. Jackson would be a dream come true. Two guys who can kind of ball hawk a little bit. He's a super talented guy. I would absolutely love to have Andrew Booth Jr. on this team. If he's available at 21 and some of those top guys at wide receiver or different positions of need aren't on the board, I would love for them to take Andrew Booth Jr. I think he'd fit the scheme well, and he has all the tools necessary. If he can refine a few things, I think working with Belichick, working in this defense alongside J.C. Jackson, Jonathan Jones, even Jalen Mills, guys like that, I think he can learn a lot from them. And I think he's got a lot of talent. And if he falls to the right spot, I think he can be a really, really good corner for years to come. So I would absolutely love to have Andrew Booth Jr. He's my number one target out of these three guys. He'd be perfect fit here in my eyes. And it would be a slam dunk pick if he fell to us at 21.
Yeah, who we took in our first mock draft that we did last week on our live show, Andrew Booth Jr., 21 out of Clemson. He might have the best feet in this class. I still would put Roger McCreary with some dang good feet, but obviously there's a lot more concerns with him there. But the way he comes out of his back pedal, he didn't play much man in college, but he has the length to do it. His wingspan, I know, even though he's a 6-footer, he has a long wingspan. You can just tell when he got a long, lengthy corner. I think he can transition into a true press man lockdown corner a lot easier than a McDuffie, a Roger McCreary, guy like that have shorter arms, shorter wingspan, or haven't played a lot in college. This guy has the skill set. Really, the only knock on him is he's not a sure tackler. He struggles with tackling at times. And, honestly, in my opinion, if your cornerback has to take 8 tackles a game because he's allowing that many catches, he's probably not a true lockdown corner at all. So, yes, you have to come up and make plays on the run and at the line of scrimmage. But it doesn't concern me as much as, or it's not going to concern me to draw him away at the 21st pick for us because of his coverage skills and the ability that I see that he can, like you said, playing behind a J.C. Jackson, learning from the coaching staff like Bill Belichick. I think that they can get a lot out of this dude coming out of Clemson.
If you sign JC to an extension and you have him, Andrew Booth Jr., Jonathan Jones as your top 3 corners, that's talent right there. There's a lot of talent there that I think if they can mold this Andrew Booth, I think that's going to be a great top three. And then Jalen Mills will be able to be more of a versatile chess piece. We'll have more depth at the corner position, which was something we talked about all last season and all before the season last year. That was something that was one of the biggest killers this year for the Patriots. And we saw it that last game. Jalen Mills had COVID. And I mean, they got absolutely torched by the Bills. Not that defense was playing well at that time, but it just you could see it wearing on him. If one guy goes down, that whole defense is screwed because the secondary is so thin, and that's just not something that we've seen in the past. We've had good depth in the secondary in recent years. I mean, having Stephon Gilmore and JC Jackson along with Jonathan Jones was, I mean, crazy. Just a lot of talent at the corner position. So I think getting Andrew Booth Jr. would solidify that position, add some more depth. Some of those guys could go back into their roles. Jalen Mills is more of a safety. He's played better there overall in his career. So you can play him at corner sometimes. You can play him at safety. You can kind of mix and match with him and some of the other pieces on this defense. So I think he'd be a great pick. Going to our last pick, kind of an honorable mention, Jordan Davis from Georgia. I mean, 6'6", 340 pounds. The dude is a monster. He's enormous. And he's a guy who his primary focus is stopping the run. And that's something he does really well. This feels like a Bill Belichick type of pick. Maybe this is more of a guy I'd like to see us trade back a little later in the first round to grab, but I also think he could go 17 to the Chargers. He's a super talented player, and his athleticism for his size is just kind of shocking. You see him on the field and you're like, that guy doesn't look like he's 6'6", 340. He doesn't look like he's running at that speed because, I mean, what was he clocked at, like 18 miles an hour, something crazy for a big guy like this. So he's a menace in the run game. He'll eat up double teams. He'll throw guys off him. He'll stuff the ball at the line of scrimmage or behind it. I think he's just a really talented defensive player that Belichick would love to have, especially next to Christian Barmore. You have Barmore, who's more of a pass rusher, and you would have Jordan Davis, who's more of a run stopper. So you'd have kind of the best of both worlds. I know Belichick usually likes to go to more versatile players that can do both things, but if you have two guys that are elite at two separate things and you can put them both on the field at the same time, you can be prepared for two different situations. And I think Jordan Davis would fill a hole in this defense that it's had for a couple of years now. We haven't been able to stop the run. That's been one of the biggest problems. It's affecting our secondary in the passing game because when teams can just run on us and then use play action, it's tough for the linebackers. And you saw that kind of wear on them later in the year. Hightower and Bentley would go all out for the run and then they'd get beat in the pass, or vice versa. They'd kind of play back and try to play zone coverage or whatever, and they'd get beat in the run game. So I think he would fill a hole that this team needs. And it's kind of all about, can you find other pieces later in the draft? Like I'll have you touch on here. Travis Jones, Perion Winfrey. There's a couple different guys later in the draft that can also fill that need. So it's going to be about best bang for your buck. Where is the best value to pick this guy at?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love Jordan Davis. I think that it would be a little bit of a reach at 21 for New England after trading up and investing in Barmore last year. He's totally different than Barmore. He's got one pass rush move, like Cole mentioned. It's going to be a bull rush. He's going to be a true nose technique, A-gap player. So it does, sound very nice. But like Cole mentioned, Travis Jones's performance at the Senior Bowl sold me. Get him in the second if that's how you want to fill it. Perion Winfrey was another guy that's more like Christian Barmore, in my opinion. He has speed. He has power. He would probably need to develop a little bit into a better run stopper. But I think that with these guys that we have been seeing, Alabama's Faradin Mathis, also Nealon Farrell out of LSU, Logan Hall out of Houston. These are guys that I think will be there in the second and third round. And I just like that value at that position a little bit more than I do in the first round, unless New England's able to trade back into the late first. Jordan Davis is still there, and they can accumulate another third, fourth, maybe a fifth round pick because we are a little low on picks. So I love Jordan Davis. I think he's a freakish athlete. He's a freakishly sized man, and he's going to, be a big part of some defense in the middle, stopping the run. And there's a lot of other teams, I think, in front of us that need a run stopper more. So he might not even be on the board at 21 for us, but it's definitely a possibility. So,
yeah. So all those guys would be great options. If you guys haven't already, subscribe, all that stuff, comment who you'd like most out of these guys. And we'll say it one more time. Our number one option, Andrew Booth Jr., cornerback from Clemson. He's a monster. Devin Lloyd, linebacker from Utah. Trent McDuffie, corner from Washington. And then an honorable mention, Jordan Davis from Georgia, defensive tackle. He'd be a beast. All these guys would fit great in this defense, just about spot, scheme, and what Belichick wants to do. And nobody will really know until draft night. But that's going to be it for this episode. And comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know what you guys think of these players and who you'd like to take at 21, or if you'd like to see the Patriots trade back, because we know that's always an option. So we will see you guys next time.